a Cubs legend that I share a birthday with, a 35-year-old piece of Wrigley Field memorabilia, and a Hall of Fame pitcher who, when I first saw him, I thought he was a hitter. All that and new subscriber shoutouts coming up ahora. Hello everybody, my name is Robert Sagady, also known as a commenting collector. Hope everyone had a great week. I certainly did. I'm excited because I'm going to do some responses for a couple channels that I'm recently subscribed to. The first is Hodges 1455. I'm going to show a couple cards of a pitcher that I think was a really good hitter. And for RJ Collects Sets, I'm going to talk about a famous person that I share a birthday with, and in addition to that, a famous event that fell on my birth date as well, along with new subscriber shoutouts. It's going to be a fun show, and let me turn the camera around now. For RJ Collects Sets, he wanted us to talk about a famous date in history that falls on the same day as our birthday. And for me, the commenting collector, I was born August 8th, which happens to be the same date, August 8th, 1988, that Wrigley Field first had their unofficial game with lights. And I say unofficial because it didn't make it past 5 full innings before the rains came and the game was suspended and made up the following day, August 9th. So perhaps God didn't want lights to be a thing at Wrigley, but finally it did happen. So unofficially, however, the first ball game with lights at Wrigley Field happens to be on my birthday, which is very appropriate since I am and was a huge Cubs fan. As a matter of fact, this genuine Cubs Wrigley Field t-shirt with the August 8th, 88 commemorative date on it was actually bought at a shirt shop right outside of Wrigley Field the following year when I visited the park for the first time. And this was actually one of the original leftovers for that famous date in Cubs history. RJ also wanted us to talk about a famous person that we share a birth date with, and just happens to be the same franchise also gives that distinction in the form of first baseman, Cubs legend, Anthony Rizzo, who manned that position for the Cubs during the glorious year of 2016 when the Cubs busted the curse and won the World Series. This is a Panini Obsidian card that I pulled from a pack. And as you can see on the back, they have a little description of some of his accomplishments. However, it doesn't show Anthony's birthday, but it really is. Here, let me prove it to you. Alexa, what year was Anthony Rizzo born?
Anthony Rizzo was born on August 8, 1989, in Fort Lauderdale.
So there you go. That is a VR for RJ Collects Sets. Like I said, I'm a new subscriber, and if you're not aware of RJ's channel, please check it out, watch his videos, and give him a subscription. And here's my second VR. Before I get to the second VR, I just want to quickly read off my new public subscribers. Cabs Cards, DK, Random Rips, Gry I Zabawa, Ripping for Rutschman's, Ripping for Ravens, Wait Till Fame, Shaw Racing Collects, Al's RPOs, AJ Tura Vlog, Slim's Collections, Food and More, Two Brothers Collectibles, Yamale and Tienne, For the Poles, Robert Springs, and last but not least, Mets Collector. Okay, so Hodges 1455 wants us to talk about pitchers that are good hitters. So what came to my mind, and I don't know if it's going to be statistically accurate, although I will cite some of Lefty Carlton's statistics as a hitter in a second. But for me, it was more anecdotal. As a kid, and I'll just put it in context, I grew up in an American League city. For that reason, of course, back in the 70s, we didn't have interleague play. So really, my only exposure to National League players was during the NBC game of the week, Saturday game of the week, where they would have one game, and if it happened to be a National League team, well, then I could see some National League ball players. But other than that, it was pretty slim pickings, other than maybe This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen, which was always fun to watch. And of course, the Sunday paper, where you could see all the box scores and statistics. So anyway, I remember watching one of these games of the week, and the Phillies were playing, and I think that must have been the first time I even heard of Steve Carlton as he was hitting, and I think he may have hit a home run. And so maybe it was just the name Steve Carlton. I thought, well, that's a really good hitter. But then the next inning, he was on the mound pitching. So I knew he was not just a hitter, but a pitcher. So that always stuck in my mind. And back in the day, I was at a card show, and they had this cool Steve Carlton, and this is actually a 67, and he is in a Cardinals uniform, which really blew my mind because I had only known him as a Philly growing up. So I bought this card. It's not in the greatest shape, but good enough for me. And I have a more recent 1980 version that I bought from a store when I was young. So this is actually personally pack pulled. And being that Hodges wanted us to talk about a pitcher that is a good hitter, that's what came to my mind. And I was curious what Steve Carlton's record as a batter was. So I looked on Baseball Reference, and for Steve Carlton's 22-year National League career, where he had the opportunity to hit, he played in 699 games. He had 1,719 at-bats. He scored 123 runs. He had 346 hits, 49 doubles. Amazingly, he had 6 triples, and he had 13 home runs, which actually I think is pretty darn good. He had 140 RBIs. Amazingly, he had 2 stolen bases. Maybe it was a botched hit and run, or maybe the ball skipped away from the catcher, not far enough to be a wild pitch or pass ball, but they gave him credit for a stolen base. Or maybe it was just Steve's blazing speed at the time. Lefty Carlton ended up his 22-year illustrious career with a 201 batting average. So being over the Mendoza mark, I think that's really pretty good. He had 446 total bases. He was hit by pitch, and this makes me laugh because this just reflects the hardball era that was the 70s and 80s. Steve Carlton was hit by a pitch 10 times, so I'm sure there was a lot of retribution and payback that went with that, and probably maybe would have resulted in some scuffles and fights after Steve getting beaned while he was in the batter's box. And he had 94 sacrifice hits, and last but not least, Lefty Carlton had 13 sacrifice flies. So I think all in all, Steve Carlton was probably a decent hitter after all. What do you think? Leave your comments and leave your thoughts in the comments. But I just want to say thanks to Hodges and thanks to RJ Collects Sets. I should say that's Hodges 1455 and RJ Collects Sets for this opportunity to give you my video response. So other than that, if you would like, comment, and if you feel this channel is worthy of your subscription, I'd appreciate that as well. So until next week, this is the Commenting Collector saying, good collecting.